Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we've been
How long have you
kicking.
been?
We got married in 1959.
How long y'all
So
been married? So how many
uh,
years is that? 70?
about 60 years or so. Yeah.
60
Uh,
to 20 is
yeah.
60. Yep, 61.
She
Lord
said
of mercy, look at you.
she said it takes a long time to grow a husband.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I agree with her. I've been through a few.
Yeah, you
I couldn't
understand then,
do
don't
them.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, mine wouldn't stay alive long enough for me to get anything going. They died on me, and I
Well,
wasn't even, that's hard on a woman,
it's
But
really, really, really hard. Yeah. Again, I
I
commend
don't
you
think I
for
have to.
you've got a lot going on, and I think it's wonderful that you're doing all these things.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you've lived this long and can share all these topics so far. You've hit on, and we're just touching the surface, like Richard said. We hadn't got into all the details yet. So, Richard, about the Army, now we got to learn about this brother in the Army. Was he down here in Pensacola or Georgia? Where was
No,
this
he
Army
was,
brother?
back in Chatsworth, Georgia, and there was a man that came back from World War II by the name of Tom Winkler, and he was a paratrooper. And my brother was a timber cutter and a talc mill worker, and he knew Tom because Tom had dated one of my older sister's son. And Corky got to know him. This particular brother had a nickname of Corky. His name was Virgil Alvin Pellom. But Corky is what he went in the family, is what he was known by. But he was impressed with, he'd asked Tom about his paratrooper experience, and he was impressed with that. So when he got about 18 years old, he went and joined the Army and asked to be a paratrooper. And he went to Fort Campbell and took the training and started working his way up through the ranks. And he had something like 1,000 jumps out of the airplane, and he had 2 different tours in the Korean War. And then, as I told you separately, he was on in that battle of Pork Chop Hill that they made the movie about, and he survived that. So as far as I know, Corky didn't have any wounds or anything. I never heard him talk about that other than the mental scarring that you get from being under pressure and everything in the Army. He had some distress like that. He retired back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, after 20 years, and he was a master sergeant. And it's strange, from a talc miller and a sawmiller to a paratrooper and selling insurance. He actually started selling insurance on moonlighting somewhere along the line. So when he got over to Fort Bragg, he continued he was a insurance agent there, and he was working with that until a heart attack, like most of our boys had arterial clogging and whatnot. We were plagued with that, and a heart attack got him and took him out, so he couldn't do the insurance anymore. It took him a while to get over that, and then he had another problem with his heart and went through a second surgery. And then one day he was launching his ship. He loved to fish. He was launching his boat, and the boat kind of pulled. It was running, and it kind of extended him out a little bit away from, as it was kind of getting away from him. And he had a massive heart attack and just died right on the spot there. So he died, and then he had 2 sons, one practicing anesthesiologist today over there. He had brain tumor that he had taken out and survived that. His oldest son was a cartographer, had graduated over at the University of North Carolina and was already involved in map making and whatnot. He was 40 years old, shaving to go to work one morning and dropped dead with a heart attack. So that left this one boy that's still alive over there. So that's pretty much.
Did you have any kids?
Yeah, well, he had two boys, and one was the doctor that survived the brain tumor, and then his oldest son that had just gotten out of his master's or doctorate degree, whatever he had, as a cartographer, and he was getting ready to roll and had working with some map making in England, and then he was shaving one day in North Carolina and dropped dead while he was shaving. He was 40 years old. And he had been to a karate class the night before that. He was really looking at him. He looked very healthy and very strong. But the arterial disease ran through us. There were 6 siblings in my family, 6 of us, that had open heart surgery. And one of them, one sister, one of my older sisters, had open heart surgery. So the blood pressure thing and arterial disease really took a grip on us, you know. That's kind of that's about my medical story there, Teresa.
That's a good one, and they say everybody's got one. So, but I don't know if everybody's got a music, but history, we know we got a history usually something to do with our health, our body, right, and our spirit. We'll talk more about spirit Sunday if you'd like to come back, but let's just touch quickly. Richard will like this. Okay. Tell us how you got that strange website looking at the moon on this part of the show.
Okay. I wanted to set that up as like a family history place. So I put a little bit of our family history on there. And so I had this picture. My dad, he's the one that squatted down pouring whiskey into a funnel, which was going into a barrel, and some more kids around it. And all of them were dressed good, and Dad even had a tie on, but it looked like about a 16 or 17-year-old boy. So I thought I would use that, and working in art development for a couple of years here in Dalton, Georgia, as an independent contractor, I learned a little bit about how to use the Photoshop stuff, you know, the program, and screen printing. Yeah,
really?
And, yeah. So I took that experience, and I purchased, like you'll do in art development, you buy their companies, as you know, you can buy photographs of all kinds of images. So I got one of like a moonlight night, and then I superimposed that picture of my dad pouring that whiskey on it, and then just worked with the transparency of it till I got it like you see it there. And I just wanted it to look like they're out in the moonlight. They're doing that, you know. So that's the story on that.
Well, you're quite the artist. You're a mixed media artist.
Well, I don't feel like I'm anything great at all, but I've just been blessed and been able to learn a few things as I've gone along. You know, most of it just from personal incentive, you know, and personal get up and go, or personal interest, I'd say.
So how much do you know about Photoshop? You did Photoshop?
I don't know. I'm not really highly proficient in it, but I was good enough to work and put images in a place where they weren't really there, but you could put them there, and work with when we were working in art development, a man had some proprietary material. He founded the Healthier Choice Flooring Company here in Dalton, Carl Poteet, and he had an idea that he wanted to, he had some particular fabric he wanted to try to market some of his ideas. He saw he was looking at a picture of some mountain sheep at a certain angle, and I don't know where he was, where he saw it, but he said the thing looked like it was looking at him no matter where he was, and he thought of that material that he had, and he wanted to find somebody that could do the Photoshop and run the wide format printer. We had a wide format printer, and so I had to kind of go and learn that and try to get a little help to work through that. But I got to where I could work at it pretty well. And so I had that experience before I put that website up. I was already building websites a few years before that with just drag and drop. These days
That's a Heritage, you said? That Heritage in 96 started about time Windows 96. Windows 95, but you said Heritage, right?
Well, I was with the one I've used. I've used others, but I've used the Homestead.com software that I use. Yeah.
Homestead.
And whatever my interests were, if I had an interest in something, I just built my own website, and I was used to working with images, so I didn't have any trouble doing that. So that's kind of
Did you learn to write HTML? What language did you use?
I took one lesson and bought a book and learned just a little bit about it, the rudiments of it. But they have programs now. Pardon me?
What language was it? PHP?
Yeah, HTML it was called, hypertext markup language or something like that.
Yeah, HTML, yeah.
Well, when they have these good drag and drop programs now that are just really easy to work with, and you don't have to go to school forever to learn the HTML and the other things. They have other. It's even advanced beyond that. That people that do intricate, important science and whatnot, they're deep into the science of it. But for what I was doing, the drag and drop worked well. It still does.
For photographs and artwork is drag and drop. Yeah, we use C++ or more around, people want to deep, and Python is very popular. Of course, they say Android or Python for the phones, but, we mostly, and most of the people doing all the work, we go on GitHub, GitHub, and we have Creative Commons, which we have, and then we use WordPress, a nonprofit.
Yeah.
WORDPRESS, WordPress, and we use the templates, and everybody helps and makes them, and so that's what I use, and then I back up on Linux, Linux, Linux.
Yeah.
But then most people use Windows 95 in their desktop publishers, but I was impressed that anybody that does Adobe anything, because that's what we used to use up in the hills of Kentucky at our newspapers, right?
Yeah.
To drag, like you said, to fix pictures and all of that is Adobe and the little weekly newspapers. Now,
sounds like you were deeper into it than I was. You're more.
No.
You had more experience in it than I did, for sure.
No, not Adobe. I was the writer. I was the contributor. I was the reporter. I'm a journalist.
Oh, gotcha.
So I'm more of a reporter. And then I'd take a photographer with me on my assignments. Even up there with Bill Monroe, I was the reporter and had a photographer with me. And then we'd take it back to the weekly newspapers. It'd be the Beaver Dam or the Ohio County. We had the Times News in Hartford. And then we had some over in the other little towns down the road that I worked with. And then when I was running a magazine, I went all up in Kentucky, up around Bourbon, where they had all the bourbon and stuff up there north Louisville, where they did the magazine. So we did magazine, and we put all those pictures and people that were doing the music and stuff. Yeah, I got into it for years, weekly publishing and newspapers and all that. So with your website, what year did you start doing? Because at 84, what year did you start doing computers?
Oh, I didn't. I bought my first used little computer was probably